Hey, sports fans. This is Robert here again today from WTP Sports Dudes. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the start of the college football season and those teams in those four major conferences that I think have a chance to make the 12-team playoff at the end of the season. First team I want to talk about is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They're an independent team, but I think they have a legitimate chance of making the college football playoffs, especially if they can win that first game against the Texas A&M Aggies. Now I want to talk about the Big 12. Now the Big 12 is a conference that has several new teams that have joined them in Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State. I really think that some of those teams from that Pac 12 have a chance of coming in and making a big impact in that league. But I think Oklahoma State is a possible team that can make it to the 12 team playoff at the end of the season. I also think Colorado can make it because they have a quarterback that can help lead that team to many wins this season. Also, I think Arizona can make it because they have a solid defense. And we all know that defense can win games. I also believe if Jaylon Daniels plays and stays healthy this season, the Kansas Jayhawks have a legitimate chance of winning 10 games in the Big 12 this year. But my front runner is the Utah Utes. I really think that Utah is going to be the team that comes out of that Pac 12 to win the Big 12 this season. But my sleeper team, I don't think they're going to win the conference, but I think they're going to be better than what most people think, and that's UCF. And I think UCF is going to have a good season this season. The next conference I want to talk about is the ACC. I really do believe that North Carolina State has a chance of upsetting some teams in the ACC this year and possibly making it to the 12-team playoff. Also, I think the newcomer SMU is going to surprise a lot of people in the ACC as well because they have a solid football team. And we all know that they raised a lot of money with NIL. So they're going to be getting some players in that university that's going to help them win some games. Also, I think Clemson is going to make a push too to win the ACC and possibly make that 12-team playoff because they got a solid quarterback in Klubnik. So I think anytime you have a good quarterback, you got a chance of making it to the championship game in your conference. I also think Florida State has a legitimate chance of getting there as well. They got all the pieces they need. If their quarterback can come through, they definitely have a chance of making the 12-team playoff as well. Also, my front runner is the Miami Hurricanes. I think if Cam Ward can play to his ability and lead that team, I believe Miami can win that ACC conference and be the team that represents the ACC in that 12-team playoff. But my sleeper team is Duke. And the reason why I'm saying Duke is my sleeper team is because they got that backup quarterback from Texas. And I think that his big arm can lead them to some victories this football season. On to the Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten is going to be a tough conference because they got several teams from the Pac 12 as well. And I think those teams that are coming from the Pac 12 are going to really help the Big Ten solidify themselves as one of those major conferences in college football. Not that they haven't been in the past, but they're really going to make them powerful here in the upcoming season. So I think USC is a possible team. If they can get that defense together, they're going to win some games offensively because, Riley is going to have that offense clicking. I also think Michigan is another team that can make that 12-team playoff again and defend their national championship. Because anytime you have a defense the caliber that Michigan has, you definitely got a chance of winning your conference and making it to the 12-team playoff. My other team is Penn State. I think this is the year that Penn State is going to get over the hump and win some of those games that they haven't been winning in the past years against your Ohio States and your Michigans. I think this year they're going to be able to do that and make it to the 12-team playoff out of the Big Ten. The newcomer to the Big Ten, Oregon, is probably going to be the second best team in that conference if they continue to do the things that they're doing with NIL, bringing in some of those major players from other universities who came out of the transfer portal. So I think that Oregon is probably going to be the second best team in that conference. But my number one team in the Big Ten, I think this year is going to be those Ohio State Buckeyes. Anytime you have NFL players on your roster that could have declared for the NFL draft, but they decided not to, and they decided to come back for another year, that puts you in a prime position to win your conference and make it to the 12-team playoff and possibly win that national championship. And I think Ohio State is that team in that conference that could possibly do that. My sleeper team in the Big Ten is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. With that coach that they have and his defensive mindset, I really believe that Nebraska is going to be a sleeper team in that conference, and they're going to win more games than people think. Last year, all of their losses were one score game losses. So you know that their defense is going to be solid this year. You know that they're going to be able to hold opponents to a low enough total point score that they can win games in the end in those fourth quarters. The last conference I want to cover is what I believe to be the best conference in college football, and that's the SEC. I'm thinking that the SEC is going to be the most powerful conference this year because they added Oklahoma and Texas. Anytime you add two blue bloods like that, you're definitely on the right track of building a super conference. The team I think that has a chance to win that conference and possibly make the 12-team playoffs is LSU. LSU may have lost their starting quarterback who won the Heisman Trophy last year, but they have all the pieces they need to be successful this season and get to 10 wins and make it to the college football playoff. I also believe Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin can make the 12-team playoff. Lane Kiffin is an offensive juggernaut. He can really coach that offense and he can put plays together that can really score points in those games. And you know that the SEC is a big time defensive conference and a smash mouth kind of conference. But when you can open it up with those kind of offensive plays like Ole Miss will do, they got a possible chance of making it to the 12-team playoff and winning the SEC. My third team is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, you know they're always stacked with talent, so you know that they're going to be able to do what they need to do. Even though they got a first-year coach in DeBoer, I still think that they're going to be right up in the mix of this thing in the SEC and possibly win the SEC conference and make it to the 12-team playoff. And my fourth team is my very own Texas Longhorns. I believe that Sark has built a team that's going to be able to compete in the SEC. He got some big humans on both sides of the ball, which what you need in the SEC. You got to have big humans on the offensive and defensive lines in order to be able to compete in that league. But also, Sark is an offensive juggernaut as well. He really can call plays on that offensive side of the ball, and he's going to be able to exploit a lot of those teams in the SEC with his wide open style and his pass and his run blends that he uses with the Texas Longhorns. So they're my second team that I think has a good chance of winning the SEC. But the number one team I think in the SEC will be those Georgia Bulldogs. They're just stacked with talent as well. They have all the pieces that they need to make it to the college football playoffs and to win the SEC. They have a tough challenge ahead of them because they have some serious road games that they got to travel to. They got to go to Texas and they got to go to Alabama, I believe. So I think that they got a tough schedule ahead of them, but I think that they can weather that storm and make it because they got the number one Heisman hope in their quarterback. So I really believe that they can make it. And my last team that I think is a sleeper team in the SEC is those Auburn Tigers. Auburn surprised some teams last year, and then they lost some games that they should not have lost last year. But I think they're able to right that ship and be able to do some things this year to help them be a possible contender in the SEC and possibly win it. So that's all I have for you today. Please make sure that you subscribe, that you like, and that you click the bell so that you can get notifications anytime we produce videos. Hook 'em.